Hi everyone, it's Kendall here, and what we have today is week number 13 in our continuing Brackman mystery series of blocks. So, without much further ado, and without much of that yibba yabba chibba chabba from me, let's spin the wheel. Brackman ID 1605 gives us the 9-patch chain. This was a Beth Gutchen design and appeared in a booklet titled The Perfect Patchwork Primer, which was a David McKay & Co. publication of New York in 1973. As with all of our previous 9-patch blocks that we've been making, these were all originally designed to be a 9-inch finished block, and as such, each component is 3 inches. We cannot divide 4 inches, which is what we need as a single component for our 12-inch block, by 3 and get an even number. Therefore, we won't be doing this block, and we are going to spin that wheel again. Brackman ID 1660 gives us a block that was known by 3 separate names depending on which source it was found in. It was known as New Album when it appeared in the Kansas City Star in 1934. Patterns for the Kansas City Star appeared in 3 periodicals, the Kansas City Star, Weekly Kansas City Star and Weekly Star Farmer from 1928 through to 1960. Early patterns were McKim syndicated patterns, but in the early 1930s, a unique column started that was a mix of traditional and new designs by staff members and readers of the columns. The second name it was known by was Ava's Friendship Quilt, which was a Jean Dubois design. She was an editor and publisher of La Plata Press, which published the following: The Wool Quilt in 1978, By Baby Bunting in 1979, and A Galaxy of Stars, America's Favourite Quilts, in 1979. The last name that this block was known by was Cedars of Lebanon, and this was when it appeared in a periodical called Hearth and Home. This was a periodical that was published by Vickery and Hill Company in Augusta from 1885 through to the 1930s. There are conflicting stories about the origins of this block and how it first appeared in Hearth and Home, but we'll just say that it's from Hearth and Home, and we'll get on with piecing this week's block. As always, here we are with all of our pieces cut out as per the cutting sheet that you will find in the description box below, in the first pinned comment, and over at the Facebook group Kendall's Quilting Corner as soon as this video is aired for the first time. On the cutting sheet there, you will see that I've got the little diagram that indicates that you need to cut some of these squares on the diagonal once. And we are also using some sizing that is 7/8. That is because to piece the corner units called a cat's cradle, we need very exacting sizes, as making them bigger to trim them down, doing it the way I'm going to show you, doesn't really work that well. You won't get your 1/4 of an inch when you add the half square triangle to the pieced half square triangle. If you like, there is a tool from Creative Grids called the Cat's Cradle Ruler, which has you make them 2 at a time, which I would have, if I had more time, worked out how to do manually, but I am creating this video with a few hours to spare of getting it uploaded. If you would like to have a look at the Creative Grids Cat's Cradle Ruler, I have a link in the description box below for where you can purchase one from the Fat Quarter Shop, and in the top right hand corner there you'll find a link to a video from Creative Grids on how that ruler is used. Okay, without much further ado, let's begin by making those cat's cradle units. And what you can see me doing here is I've taken all of the D squares, which there is 2, and I've cut those once on the diagonal. I've grabbed the 4 B squares and I've also cut those once on the diagonal. Remembering our D squares are 4 7/8 inches and our B squares are cut at 2 7/8 inches. To start making the half of this cat's cradle, which is pieced, we need to make 4 units that have 2 of our half square triangles on the bottom, or the 2 edges of our E squares, as you see me laying that out here. We're going to take that to the machine and stitch our 1/4 inch, lining up our 90-degree corners just to make it easier and so we're not sewing from a point. And then we'll press all of these towards that darker print fabric. We now just need to repeat that previous step to add our half square triangle to our remaining edge of our E square. But first I'm going to trim off all those little dog ears, and we'll once again take these to the machine and stitch our 1/4 inch. We'll then press these ones towards the half square triangle. We now once again just need to trim off this little dog ear that we've created after attaching our second half square triangle, and then these get sewn together with our D half square triangles to create the final unit, and you will find that these are an exact size and will match exactly. So just take care when sewing these together, trust your 1/4 inch and everything will be fine. So I'll sew all of these together now with that 1/4 inch, and we will once again press towards that solid half square triangle, or in my case, the dark fabric. And once again, we will trim away our little dog ears that were created after we finished piecing that unit. We'll just set all 4 of those aside for now, and we need to take our A square and our F squares, and we just need to put a sew and flip on 2 of the opposing corners of our A square. Now, I have no idea what I've done with my folded corner clipper tool. It's a very sad day today in the studio here at Quilting Basics. I have absolutely no idea where I've put it, and yes, I am very sad about it. So in light of that, I am just grabbing my 1x12 Creative Grids ruler and using the 1/4 inch mark from that ruler to place corner to corner on our F square after we've lined that up in the corner, matching all of our edges. I will then trim away that excess fabric and take this to the machine and stitch my 1/4 inch. Because these go on the opposite corners of the block, or diagonally opposed corners, I will get both of them ready and take them to the machine and stitch at the same time, and then we will press out towards that sew and flip piece that we've just added. We now have all the units required to make up this block once we pull in our C-squares, which were cut from our medium fabric, even though mine seems to be a bit darker, but you know, I never do what I'm supposed to. You know, whatevs. So we're going to lay this out in its final 9-patch fashion, making sure that we have the squares of our cat's cradle blocks all pointing inwards, so the solid half square triangle points out away from the block on all 4 corners. Placement of the block in the middle doesn't really matter, except for me having this directional fabric, I'm making sure that it is going from the upper left to the lower right, which is how the block was designed. To do our 9-patch construction, we simply now just have to sew all of our vertical seams, creating 3 rows, and then our horizontal seams. Because we have those nice solid blocks, the top and the bottom row will press in towards that solid fabric square, and the middle row will get pressed out towards the solid fabric. This will allow our intersections to nest nicely, and you know that I'm a fan of that when we come to doing our horizontal rows. Once we've done the horizontal rows, both of those will just get pressed in towards that center block, as it will be the path of least resistance with the least amount of interference from other seam allowances. And with one final press, as I said, in towards the center of the block, this version, or our 12-inch version of this week's block, is done. Every component of this week's block can be made with our AccuQuilt, and for that we need a variety of these shapes. So you will need the 8-inch mix and match cube, shapes 1, 2, 3, and 5. And from the 8-inch companion set corners or classics, you will need number 10, which is the signature block. So if you have those available to you, you are able to use those to make this block. Once again, I will be using my 6-inch mix and match cube, which will yield me a 9-inch finished block, as I still don't have, and probably won't have for quite a while, the 8-inch mix and match cube. We will fast forward the making of this block. In some instances I do press the seams open here, and in other instances, just to avoid bulk, I am pressing just to one side, but it goes together exactly the same way as our 12-inch block, just in pieces and parts. And don't we all wish we could sew that fast in real life? The AccuQuilt, or the 9-inch version of my block for this week, is done. Now, as for this block on repeat, here it is, just exactly side by side. And as I always say, or quite often say with these symmetrical blocks, it would look really great, kind of scrappy, and you could control those secondary images. If you didn't want to line up all of those little seam allowances and edges and things, here is what it would look like, just with some sashing and cornerstones. Okay, folks, thanks for joining me for another fun week. Now, the corners of these blocks being a cat's cradle, they are quite unique, but they are very simple to piece together. As I stated throughout the video, if you want to, you could buy the Specialized Creative Grids tool so that you can oversize them and trim them down. I hope to get that in the future, or work out a way that you can do that same 2 at a time method manually and without the unique tool. Because let's face it, how many times do we actually make or require to make this block? So in the essence of that, if you are not wanting to purchase the Specialized tool, in the description box below you will find a link, as always, to our cutting instructions, and as a separate link there will be a sheet that you can print off to make foundation papers to help you make those corner units a little bit easier. As always, I have loved having you here, and if you've enjoyed your time, I'd love for you to like the video, share it with a friend that you think may be interested, click that little subscribe button if you haven't already done so, but most importantly, once you've clicked that subscribe button, make sure to tickle that little bell icon and you will be notified of all my future releases, and you won't miss a thing. I've been Kendall. You've been fabulous. I'll see you all again real soon. Bye for now.